Well, good morning. Welcome to City of Suffolk's Board of Zoning Appeals, November 18th, 2025 meeting. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a quorum. 3 is a quorum for BZA, and our 4th member will be coming in a matter of a few minutes. Like I said, this morning was a little unusual for us. Usually we meet at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, not at 9. So I think there was a little bit of confusion. Ms. Cobb, would you please go ahead and call roll?
Shantae Hall. Present. Corey Carnegie. Melissa Venable.
Present.
Fred Walker.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Terrific. Are there any corrections to the previous BZA minutes? I did note, and I think I emailed that there were just 2 typos. Aside from that, are there any corrections to the minutes? If none, all in favor of approving the minutes with the 2 corrections, please say yay.
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 Any nays? The minutes are approved with the 2 corrections. Our first agenda item today is BZA 02-2025, address 6708 Burbage Landing Circle, submitted by, I hope I do not pronounce this incorrectly, Dallas Day?
Dallas Day. Mm-hmm.
Is it Dallas Day without? I'm reading off of this one, so yes, there's an S that's missing. I apologize. Ms. Cobb, would you please read the caption on that?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 2-2025. The applicant, Dallas Day, is requesting a variance to increase the permitted fence height from 2.5 foot to 4 foot for a solid fence in the side yard adjacent to the street. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 7K*102, located at 6708 Burbage Landing. Zoning classification, PD, plan development. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to allow an increase in maximum fence height from 2.5 feet to 4 feet for an existing fence adjacent to a street. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation by Lisa Marshall, zoning official.
Good morning, everyone. The applicant, Dallas Day, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 7, Section 31-701B 10A, to increase the fence height requirement from 2.5 feet to 4 foot high for the installation of a solid fence on the side yard adjacent to a street. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 7K*102, located at 6708 Burbage Landing Circle, Suffolk, Virginia, Nansemond Voting Borough. Zoning classification PD, planned development overlay. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. In accordance with Section 31-309C2 of the UDO, a variance may be granted by the board only if the applicant establishes compliance with the hardship criteria established in Section 15.2-2309 of the Code of Virginia. An excerpt from the state code which outlines the established criteria is attached at the end of this report. On August 4th, a previous owner was issued a permit ZON 2005-02373 for a 4-foot solid fence located at least 10 feet from the pin on Meekins Way. Per the applicant, due to deterioration, he removed the fence. Once a fence is removed, it must meet today's standards, and a new permit must be issued. On December 22nd of 2021, the applicant applied for a new permit and submitted an aerial map with the location of the requested fence on the property line on Meekins Way. The applicant was notified that his permit request was denied by the zoning administrator because it did not meet the required side yard setback of 20 feet adjacent to a street. On April 12th of 2022, the applicant applied for a variance through the Board of the Zoning Appeals, BZA 2022-00008, and was approved and granted a reduced side yard setback adjacent to a street from 20 feet to 10 feet for the installation of a 4-foot solid fence. On September 12, 2022, the fence failed inspection because it was not placed 10 feet from the pin that was approved by the board. On September 20th of 2022, a notice of violation was sent given the abatement and all other options. On November 18th of 2022, the violation was not abated and the first summons for court was issued. Since then, 5 summonses and subsequent summonses were sent. 3 were prepaid and several court cases were continued, giving the applicant the opportunity to submit paperwork for the BZA. On September 3rd, 2025, a new survey was received reflecting that this fence is not located in the location that was approved by the board, but it's also over the property line pins in the rear and on the side, and adjacent to the street Meekins Way and into the public right-of-way. According to the ordinance, Article 7, Section 31701B10A of the UDO, fences or walls in a single-family residential district, provided that a fence or wall not more than 6 feet in height may be located in any rear side yard or rear yard other than the required yard adjacent to a street. A fence or wall not more than 6 feet in height may be located in any planting, screening, no access easement adjacent to a street serving a double frontage and/or reverse frontage lot. Except as allowed above, no fence or wall which creates a solid screen may exceed 2.5 feet in height in any required yard adjacent to a street, except that fences having a uniform open area of 50% or more may be erected to a maximum height of 4 feet in such required yards. Height shall be measured from the average ground level adjacent to the fence or wall. No fence or wall shall encroach in the visibility triangle. Today, the applicant is requesting a variance to increase the fence height requirement from 2.5 feet high for the installation of a solid fence on the side yard adjacent to a street. Due to the ability to meet the required setbacks and the inability to establish compliance with the hardship criteria established in Section 15.2-2309 in the Code of Virginia, staff recommends denial of this request. And I am available if you have any questions.
Yeah, I do have one question, Lisa. I'm just a little bit confused on why the variance isn't being requested for the setback that was originally approved of the 10-foot setback. So the fence can be moved and meet what was previously approved.
He was given that option. Technically, he should have required a 0 setback at the initial, which he was informed of by the then zoning administrator, which is Jen Cobb, and he didn't build it as such. So right now, he's trying to keep it, not keep it, but put it actually on the property line and request for a reduction in the height, which should be, if it's on the property line, it should be 2.5. So
Right.
he's wanting to keep the 4-foot solid.
So the request is for the 4-foot solid fence.
Correct.
To be on the property line,
Correct.
even though it's within the right-of-way currently.
Now, being that it's in the right-of-way, he still has to take it out of the right-of-way.
Right.
That has to be removed regardless. But he
Okay.
can put it on the property line if you all approve it as a 4-foot solid.
So if it's approved, it's simply a 4-foot solid fence on the property line. If it's denied, then I guess they would have to go back to the drawing board and remove the fence altogether.
He's going to have to remove it regardless. He actually
Because
has
it's
a
within the
court
right.
case coming up on December 4th, which was continued because we wanted to see what the result of today's meeting would be. But he is going to have to remove it out of the right-of-way regardless.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm just surprised that the request isn't in line with the previous request with the 10-foot setback from the right-of-way. But it is what it is. You don't, yeah.
Yeah, he could have, but he
Okay,
didn't.
thank you so much. I appreciate your information. Is there any other questions for Lisa while she's at the podium? Okay, thank you. We'll now open our public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for the proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Well, that's not good. Is there anyone to speak? I'm sorry?
I'm surprised he didn't come.
Is there anyone to speak against the application? Well, that'll close this public hearing. Do we have a motion for approval, a motion for denial, or a conversation of the application? So I'm going to go ahead.
Okay, so even if it's approved for the 4 feet, he still had to take it down.
Because it's in the right way.
Right.
It was,
So either way, it has to be removed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I will put a motion for denial.
We have a motion for denial.
I'll second that emotion.
We have a second for denial. Discussion of the motion. Ms. Cowell, will you please call for a vote?
Shante Hall,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie, Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker.
Yes.
The motion carries 3-0.
The motion is denied for the first application. We'll move on to BZA 22-2025, 903 Bank Street, submitted by BC Branch Enterprises, Inc. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 22-2025. The applicant, BC Branch Enterprises, on behalf of the owner Dominic Epps, is requesting a variance to reduce the required front yard setback from 25 feet to 15 feet and the rear yard setback from 25 feet to 15 feet for the construction of a new single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 35F*LA*27A, located at 903 Bank Street, zoning classification RM, residential medium density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required front and rear yard setbacks from 25 feet to 15 feet for the construction of a new single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We will now have staff analysis and recommendation by Lisa Marshall, zoning official.
Good morning again. The applicant, BC Branch Enterprises, Inc., on behalf of owner Dominic Epps, is requesting a variance of the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31407C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards J and M, to reduce the required front yard setback from 25 feet to 15 feet and the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 15 feet to construct a new single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 35F*LA*27A, located at 903 Bank Street, Suffolk, Virginia, Whaleyville voting borough. Zoning classification RM, residential medium density. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and the notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. In accordance with Section 31309C2 of the UDO, a variance may be granted by the board only if the applicant establishes compliance with the hardship criteria established in Section 15.2-2309 of the Code of Virginia. An excerpt of the state code which outlines the established criteria is attached at the end of this report. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required front and rear yard setbacks from 25 feet to 15 feet in order to construct a new single-family dwelling. The dimensional requirements for newly platted lots in the RM zoning district requires lots to have a total land area of 10,000 square foot with a minimum street frontage of 60 feet and a lot width of 80 feet measured at the front setback line. This lot predates our ordinance and is approximately 3,750 square foot in land area, making the lot legally non-conforming. The width of any newly constructed home must be a minimum of 20 feet wide. Due to the inability to construct a 20-foot wide home on the lot and meet the required setbacks, staff recommends approval of this request. And I'm available if you have questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll go ahead and open this public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. That'll be the same timing system for all of the items on our agenda today, so I won't have to reiterate that. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Ranch, 701 Jones Street, Suffolk. This was an incredibly small lot, so we had to get a house to design. I know it's a super ugly house, but it'll hopefully look decent when it's done. But this is the only thing we could really put on this lot as far as in width and depth. So, yep, I'm here for any questions if you need me.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone to speak against the application? In opposition? Seeing none, do you have anything you'd like to add? That'll close this public hearing. I do have 2 questions for you. There is on the back of the lot, which is hard to see in this exhibit, it's easier to see in what we have in our packet. There's a small rectangle that sits on the back. Street extended. Actually, it sits on Bank Street. It's labeled CE. Is it concrete entrance? Is that what it is? It's right by the driveway, proposed driveway. I think as I asked the question, it became a little bit more clear to me. Is that probably what it is a concrete
Concrete
entrance?
entrance.
Yeah, it's the concrete, yes, ma'am.
And since you brought it up, I wasn't gonna, but you did. Yes, it is not one of the more attractive.
It will be when it's done, I promise.
What's that?
I said it will be when it's done.
Do you think, would you consider maybe a window or something over the front door? Because I think that would really add to the aesthetics of this.
We can certainly try to put something in there. Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, I certainly understand your limitations. However, I also
Yeah.
love the fact that
So
this could-
above the front door is actually the upstairs shower.
Oh.
Yeah. So the only thing that could go up there would be like a transom or something. So,
I would accept that,
okay.
something, please.
I'm happy to accommodate you.
Otherwise, I like the fact that it's a small home. Hopefully, it will be an affordable home.
Yeah, well, we're gonna put it in, to the housing authority and hopefully bless somebody with a family. It's gonna be a rental house, so.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks. If you
Yeah,
would
thank
do
you.
that for me, that would be helpful. Or separate the bottom windows so they're real window, like. Something, do something. It's certainly not a BZA requirement, but we do like to have these infill homes fit within, not that it's the historic area, but we just want to keep a certain character and, anyway, please and thank you. You can't vote on this. Okay. Sit down and be quiet. Do we have a motion, a discussion, any additional questions?
Motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second on the motion?
A second.
And a second. Ms. Cobb, will you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker,
Yes.
the
Your
motion
motion's
carries.
approved. Congratulations, and thanks for your assistance.
All right.
We'll move on to, do we need to do anything to bring Mr. Carnegie in?
I've marked him present. I think we're good.
He's here. Yay. We'll move on to BZA 23-2025, address 1755 Box Elder Road, submitted by Ronald L. and Brian L. Capps. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 23-2025. Ronald L. and Bryant L. Capps, owners, are appealing a notice of violation for a trailer storage lot in the agricultural zoning district. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 52*4B*1, located at 1755 Box Elder Road, zoning classification agricultural. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to either uphold the decision of the zoning administrator or overturn it. Should the board decide in favor of this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation by William Mellon, zoning administrator.
Good morning, Chair and board members. As noted, the applicants Ronald L. and Bryant L. Capps are appealing a notice of violation for the storage of commercial trailers on a lot zoned A agricultural. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 52*4B*1. Located in 1755 Box Elder Road, Holy Neck Voting Bureau, zoning classification A agricultural. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to the adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. Per the Code of Virginia 15.2-2211, an appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals may be taken by any person aggrieved or by any officer, department, board, or bureau of the locality affected by any decision of the zoning administrator. Section 31-309 of the Unified Development Ordinance establishes uniform procedures for processing hardship variances and reviewing decisions related to any order, requirement, or decision under the zoning provisions of this ordinance by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Suffolk Zoning Office received a complaint about the shipping containers being stored at 1755 Box Elder Road, a 10-acre parcel zoned agricultural. Zoning Inspector Hale inspected the property on August 20th, 2025. Her inspection revealed that commercial tractor trailers were being stored on the property in violation of Section 31-406C1 of the Unified Development Ordinance. This section prohibits heavy equipment and industrial storage lots in the agricultural district and does not list a use that would be applicable for the storage of commercial trailers on this property. A notice of violation dated August 22, 2025 was issued and mailed to the owners of the property per the city assessor's records. City assessor records list Ronnie L. and Bryant L. Capps as owners. The notice of violation outlined that the violation had to be abated by removing the tractor trailers from the property and discontinuing the non-permitted use within 30 days to prevent any further action by the city. Per state code, the notice also stated that per section 31-301I of the UDO that an appeal could be filed with this zoning administrator within 30 days. And that's the matter we have before us today, the appeal. Due diligence by the inspector indicates that the applicants, Ronnie Capps and Bryant Capps, are listed as officers of Truck Refrigeration Repair Incorporated, Norfolk, Virginia, on the company website. The company offers various commercial trailers for rent on its website. We have some information. Here we have the inspector pictures of the trailers on the property. Here we have the information from the website listing the property owners and applicants as the officers of the company. And it also they offer trailer rental. Again, that was part of the due diligence by the inspector, who is here today to answer any questions about what she may have observed on that day. As part of this appeal, the applicant states that the equipment and structure identified in the notice of violation are legally permitted to remain because they are used for legitimate agricultural purposes. They further state that the structure is necessary for the storage of farming equipment and tools and actively used during crop, harvest, and transport seasons. The notice of violation was only for the commercial trailers, not for any structures. No further details or specifics of the agricultural use has been provided. Review of the city's GIS resource pictometry does not indicate any trailer equipment storage on this 10-acre site from 2025 to February 2024, the latest year available. We ask that the board uphold the notice of violation and the administrator's determination that the storage of commercial trailers at this location constitutes a commercial use in the agriculture district, prohibited in the agriculture district per section 31-406C1 of the UDO. I'll stand by for any questions. Again, we do have the inspector available.
I have multiple questions. I want to verify a couple things. One, a recommendation of approval would uphold the city's determination that this is a violation.
Yes.
So I
Well-
didn't. A recommendation of approval would uphold the violation
Yes.
decision.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were clear on that. Second question is, how many trailers are actually seen on site, or should I ask the inspector
We
that?
can ask the inspector, but it may be hard due to the vantage point, but she'll be happy to answer that question.
Okay, and one last question. Do you know how long this property's been farmed for?
No, there's no further specifics on the farming. Usually when we have a violation and we tell somebody that there's a problem, they usually will point out, oh, this is used for soybean, this is used for corn, this is used during this part of the year.
Yeah.
We haven't received any
Any of that?
specifics.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help. Is there any other questions for William before he sits? All righty. We will go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Morning. My name's Bob Reed. I'm an attorney with Taz Fletcher in Norfolk, and I represent the CAPS. And we're in the process of removing the trailers from the property. They were, it was a matter of necessity. One of their largest customers revoked or terminated all their leases, and that they had to locate the trailers somewhere, and this was the only place they could put them. Now, subsequently, they found a place to relocate the trailers and store them, and we need about 60 days to relocate the trailers to an acceptable location. And we're asking for a deferment for 60 days to do that.
A deferment of,
For your decision.
we'll go ahead and discuss that.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and call you back up once
Okay.
we're
Thank
complete
you.
with the public hearing. Sorry about that. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the application? Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir? Is there anything else you would like to add for the time being? That'll close this public hearing. Let me turn to Ms. Cobb and ask, I'm a little confused about
You-
asking to defer the decision.
You guys can rule on the decision of whether to uphold the notice or not, and then they can work through an extension to remedy or abate the process.
Right. So
So this is
because we don't
just-
need any additional information, there's no reason for us to defer the application. We can make a decision, and then you all can discuss how to move forward beyond that. Okay, well, then it seems that the information that was provided here was maybe not all, provided by the applicant wasn't all necessarily appropriate information based on what you had just mentioned to us. So again, I'm going to reiterate, a recommendation of approval would uphold the violation. A recommendation of denial would note that we don't agree with this being a violation. Does that make sense? Okay. Do we have a motion or discussion of the motion? We're going to, no. So it sounds like they're in the process of moving those trailers, which is good news. I don't know that we require any additional information. based on what we're seeing here and what we were just told. So we'll go ahead and I'll request that we make a recommendation, or request a motion.
I put a motion out to agree.
So you're making a motion to uphold the violation?
Yes.
So a motion of recommendation for approval of the violation.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Oh, I disagree.
You disagree with?
I feel because it's in the agricultural place in that area, and it is considered, agriculture is considered farmland and farm use, but they're using it for agriculture.
Well, not, the gentleman just said they were not.
Oh, okay, well, I agree with you then.
So we have a motion to uphold the violation. We need a second on that motion.
I second.
We have a second to uphold the violation. So we have a motion, a recommendation of approval and a second. Ms. Cobb, would you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
And then I would ask if you would just go ahead and speak with the county administrator, or I'm sorry, the city administrator to move forward. Thank you very much. We'll move forward to BZA 25-2025, address 9369 River Shore Drive, submitted by Tidewater ProBuild, Inc. Ms. Cobb, would you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 24-2025. The applicant, Dave France, on behalf of the owners, Monroe, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet for the construction of a canopy over a guardhouse. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 32B*3*15, located at 2300 Enterprise Drive, zoning classification M2 heavy industrial. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required side yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet for the construction of a canopy. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation by William Mellon, zoning administrator.
As noted before, the applicant, David France, PE, on behalf of the owner Monroe Lot 15 Owner LLC, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, Article 4, Section 31407C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards L, to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet for the construction of a canopy over an existing guardhouse. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 32B*3*15, located at 2300 Enterprise Drive, Holy Neck Voting Bureau, zoning classification M2 heavy industrial. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to the adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant's requesting a reduction to the required side yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet for the construction of a 35 by 66 canopy over an existing guardhouse at the primary truck entrance. The current tenant is requesting this canopy for the health and safety of the employees. This project would qualify for an administrative variance by the zoning administrator, but would be limited to a maximum of a 30% reduction, which would result in a 17.5 reduced side yard setback, not the 16 feet reduced setback sought by the applicant. The property adjacent to this canopy contains a regional BMP, as you can see on our screens. This canopy and a proposed outside covered employee area are currently going through the site plan amendment process with the planning department. Based on these factors, staff is recommending approval for this application as submitted. And this had the existing guardhouse. And this shows the setback. You can see highlighted in yellow the 16-foot setback from the property line, and also upper right-hand corner is the regional BMP. Stand by for any questions.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Morning, Madam Chairperson. I'm Dave France with Kimley Horn, located at 4525 Main Street in Virginia Beach. I'm here to represent the applicant. Thank you all for your service and your time in supporting our community. This is a pretty straightforward application. I think the uniqueness of having the adjacent property be a stormwater detention area, that stormwater detention area is in a common property ownership where it will always be a BMP. There won't ever be any additional development on that site. So we feel like it's a very unique situation. It's consistent with development in M2 to have these types of canopies over top of the guardhouse, and really it'll just help improve the quality of the experience for both the truckers that are coming in as well as the folks that are working in that guardhouse. So we appreciate your time and would appreciate your recommendation of approval on this motion. And if you have any questions for me, just call me back up.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. France? That'll close this public hearing. Are there any questions for Mr. France or for anyone else? Do we have a recommendation or discussion?
Motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Mr. Walker and a second from Mr. Carnegie. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, Ms. Cobb, will you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations, Mr. France. We'll move on to BZA 25-2025, address 9369 River Shore Drive, submitted by Tidewater Pro Build, Inc. Did I read that incorrectly on the last one? Okay. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 25-2025. The applicant Tidewater Pro Build Incorporated, on behalf of owners Rachel Edmeyer and Adam Chin, are requesting a variance to reduce the required front yard setback from 35 feet to 30.3 feet and the side yard adjacent to a street setback from 35 feet to 15.3 feet for an addition to a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 1A(G)(1), located at 9369 River Shore Drive, zoning classification, residential low density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required front yard setback from 35 feet to 30.3 feet and the side yard adjacent to a street from 35 feet to 15.3 feet for construction of a new addition. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation by William Mellon, zoning administrator.
As noted by the Secretary, the applicant Tidewater Pro Build Incorporated is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31-407C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards K, to reduce the minimum required front yard setback from 35 to 30.3 feet and side yard adjacent to street setback from 35 to 15.3 feet for the construction of an addition to a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 1A(G)(1), located at 9369 River Shore Drive, Chuckatuck Voting Bureau, zoning classification RL, residential low density. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant's requesting a reduction to the required front yard setback from 35 feet to 30.3 feet and side yard adjacent to the street setback from 35 to 15.3 feet for the construction of a 14 by 28 addition to a single-family dwelling. The house was on the property was constructed in 1977 and is 18.1 feet from the front property line and 29.3 feet from the side yard adjacent to the street property line. The portion of River Shore Drive along the front property line was originally a private road that the Commonwealth of Virginia bought in 1992 and developed into a 40-foot wide public right-of-way. An administrative variance to reduce the 35 feet front yard setback to 30.3 feet could be approved for this project, but is presented here for completeness. The portion of the River Shore Drive along the side property line is undeveloped public right-of-way that will likely not be developed since it doesn't extend past the applicant's property. May have a little bit more. Able to cooperate. As you can see, it goes right into the water. Public Works advises that there are no plans to improve this portion of River Shore Drive. If the right-of-way is improved in the future, the reduced setbacks proposed would not impede visibility or access. With these factors in mind, staff recommends approval of this application as submitted. Stand by for any questions. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Two people.
Tom Jennings, CEO for Tidewater ProBuild.
I'm Robert Whitten, Chief Project Coordinator for Tidewater ProBuild.
We are in favor of the approval, just available if you have any questions, agree with what the recommendations are from the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anything you'd like to add, gentlemen? That'll close this public hearing. Do we have any questions, comments, or a motion?
Motion for approval. Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second to that motion. I just had one question, if you don't mind. It looks like there's two driveways that access this house currently. With the addition, it looks like, will you eliminate the second driveway that comes off of River Shore Drive?
We are reopening the front of the garage, so that will become their primary entrance again.
Front driveway. And I only ask that because the driveway that accesses as River Shore Drive then would be too short for a vehicle to be parked.
Pretty much, yes. So we're going to reopen the front of the garage, and that'll be their primary entrance again. Years ago, somehow they closed that off, and they were coming in from the side. They're going back to the front as it was originally.
Okay. Terrific. Thanks for that assistance. We have a motion for approval and a second. Seeing no discussion on that, Ms. Cobb, will you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations. Thank you. Our last item this afternoon, or this morning, is BZA 29-2025, address 2304 Manning Road, submitted by Derek Cole. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 29-2025, Derek N. Cole, the owner, is requesting a variance to increase the permitted fence height from 6 feet to 8.5 feet for a solid fence along the property lines on the side and rear. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 42*77C, located at 3204 Manning Road, zoning classification agricultural. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to increase the maximum permitted fence height from 6 feet to 8.5 feet for construction of a new fence. Should the board decide in favor of this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We will now have staff analysis and recommendation by Lisa Marshall, zoning official.
The applicant, Derek N. Cole, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 7, Section 31701B10A, to increase the fence height requirement from 6 feet to 8.5 feet high for the installation of a solid fence for the adequate containment of his wolf-dog hybrids. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 47*77C, located at 2304 Manning Road, Suffolk, Virginia, Willoughville voting borough, zoning classification A, agricultural district. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant is the owner of 4 hybrid canines, which are regulated under Virginia Code 3.26581. The ages of the hybrids are 7 years old, 10 months old, 7 months old, and 3 months old. 3 of the hybrids are mid-content and 1 is low-content. The City of Suffolk Code does not appear to contain a specific permit requirement or prohibit hybrid canines under 3.2-6582 of the Virginia Code. No local ordinance has been identified that further regulates or prohibits hybrid canines in the city. The state requires adequate confinement for hybrid canines defined as a securely enclosed and locked structure of sufficient height and design to prevent the animal's escape. The state's standard of sufficient height and design supersedes local restrictions when necessary to meet public safety and containment standards. The applicant has determined, based on the animal's size and ability to climb or jump, that a 6-foot fence is insufficient to provide the required containment to meet state standards. Therefore, an 8.5-foot enclosure is proposed to ensure compliance with state law and to protect both public safety and animal welfare. In addition, the applicant has indicated that the wolf hybrids are kept primarily for the purpose of breeding. Staff has informed the applicant that this activity meets the definition of a commercial kennel under Appendix A of the Suffolk Unified Development Ordinance. It defines commercial kennel as any land or structure in which canines, felines, or hybrids of either are kept for the purpose of breeding, hunting, or training, renting, buying, boarding, selling, or showing. The applicant has been informed that a conditional use permit is required to establish or continue a commercial kennel use in this district. In closing, the requested variance is the minimum necessary to ensure compliance with Virginia Code requirements. The request is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance to protect safety, welfare, and property values. Granting the variance will allow the property owner to maintain lawful confinement of a hybrid canine as required by state statute. The hardship is not self-imposed, but arises from the applicant's legal obligation to comply with state law requiring adequate confinement. Strict enforcement of the 6-foot maximum height would prevent compliance with state-mandated safety standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the variance request to allow construction of an 8.5-foot tall fence enclosure in the rear yard of the property. And I am available for questions.
Thank you. I do have just one question. So
Yes, ma'am.
aside from the BZA application today, there'll also be a conditional use permit application moving forward?
Yes, he did indicate that he does have it for the purposes of reading. He is here to speak regarding that. I think the last thing he said, because right now they're young, so they may not be, used for breeding at the moment, but his intent, and he is here to confirm that, will be for the purposes, and he's been informed of the conditional use process through the planning department.
Okay. Any other questions for Lisa? Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We'll move forward to the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Derek Cole, 2304 Manning Road. So I'm working on the CUP right now, and like she said, they're too young to breed. It'd basically be like breeding an 8-year-old right now. They're infinitely too young to have babies, so that's not even in the question. I'm keeping them for the purposes of breeding in the future. The only one that could be bred, she won't be in heat for another 6 months. So I'll have plenty of time to get that CUP. Other than that, I don't have anything to add. I'm standing by for any questions that you have.
Yeah, stay close because I have lots of questions.
Okay.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close the public hearing, Derek? Mr. Cole? Okay. There's nothing additional then? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Come on back. I just want to know more about the animals. They're obviously beautiful. Thank you for providing the pictures.
Yeah, they're not very good. They're just phone pictures. I actually got professional ones, but they're too large to send.
But just
through email.
can you give me a little bit of history or background on, I had no idea this was a thing.
Sure. So wolf hybrids are used for companions as opposed to a pet. So a pet indicates that it's just around, you have maybe 8, 10, 12 years. Wolf hybrids are special. They are different in personality. They bond differently with humans than dogs do. So they're used for different purposes. They're actually great for service animals. My oldest one is actually my wife's service animal. She's retired now. She doesn't use her for her service animal, but she's still registered. We want to come into this business. It's been my wife's lifelong dream, but I'm also getting out of the military, and I want something that I can do when I get out, and so I need to have this all set up so that I can expand my business and make enough money to live a humble life out there or wherever I decide to live. Yeah, you got any other questions?
Well, first, thank you for your service and congratulations on being able to retire. This has nothing to do with the application. It's just, I'm just asking. They're generally, it sounds like you have a bond with these animals. It sounds like they're, even though in my approach to a pet, they're similar to a pet. You said it's different than a pet. There's a different type of bond.
Yeah, it's very different. They treat humans differently than a regular dog would too. So a regular dog aims to please, and wolves aim to do what they want, and it doesn't really matter if it pleases you.
Like a big cat,
kind of
it sounds
thing.
like.
But they're kind of like big cats. That's what they're likened to a lot of times. They're big cats.
Is there any concern about safety for, I mean, you don't have a lot of neighbors, but safety if they get out or?
No, so wolf hybrids are very far away from their original ancestors, and even them, they're not aggressive. If you get a pack of real wolves that were starving, maybe they would go after a human, but if you encounter a wolf hybrid that got out, it would just run away from you. If mine got out today, it could be in California next week. They would just run. They get into cycles of fear and curiosity. So maybe they'll see a car and then they'll run a few miles and they're curious, so they'll keep going and they just go and go and go. They'll actually starve to death before they will survive because they don't have that instinct anymore. And you can fact check me on this, but another point of having a proper containment is because the amount of people that get them aren't prepared to have them. 90% of wolf hybrids get abandoned, and 70% of those get euthanized before the age of 2 because they get out, and due to state laws, they put them down. So we're trying to do everything right to prevent that from happening.
Thank you for giving us some information. Are there any other questions for Mr. Cole? Thank you very much. That was helpful.
And thank you, Jennifer, for getting me in here so quickly.
Do we have discussion or a motion?
Motion for approval.
I second that motion.
We have a motion for approval by Mr. Walker and a second by Ms. Hall. And again, I should have mentioned this earlier with all applications, but everything that we are looking at today are all the criteria for setbacks or for our motions are based on the hardship criteria. And I think this one is very obvious based on the hardship criteria. We have a motion and a second for approval. Ms. Cobb, would you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable,
Yes.
Fred Walker.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations, sir. Good luck to you. That concludes our items on our agenda this afternoon. There was one other item by Mr. Henderson that was going to be a 30-day delay from last month, but it sounds like that's going to be an actual 60-day delay. It was BZA 17-2025. He was getting some accurate survey information, so we'll hear him next month in December. And I think that is it. Thank you
Thank you,
so
guys.
much. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you for changing your schedule for the morning.